So good evening, everyone. I'm talking today about immigration. If you could just share the screen so I can just introduce myself and our organization for those who don't know us. Tulia is an organization that provides immigration advice and also support for migrants. And we're based in Coventry, but we serve people all over the UK. And we also provide wraparound support and training and capacity building for organizations that work with migrants in all different sectors of immigration. So today we're talking about how to regularize status in the UK and not to become an overstayer. So this webinar or this session is mainly targeted. The sessions that we're having every 2 weeks are mainly for migrants who have come into the UK on the skilled worker visa, on the health and care visa as care assistants. Mostly those are the issues that we are dealing with now, and covering those areas for the questions and the webinars for people who are on our community groups or people who are, who have engaged with us on the platforms. So how to maintain your visa and stay in the UK legally. So the majority of inquiries and questions that we're having at the moment in our organization is from people who have had their organization. I hope you can hear me still. So people who have had limitations on their visa because of revocations of sponsor licenses, so many issues coming up.
And Japan
so today I'm just
should
talking about what you can do
cooperating, and space is one
in that situation. So what you can do if you're in that situation. I hope again everyone can hear me because I've just changed devices. Is it clear and you can hear me? Please just do a thumbs up so that I know that. Yeah? Okay. Right. So those are the majority of questions that we have. That's what we're going to do. If you've got any in the chat so that we're able to answer those questions. So we're given today and they don't know what to do with their visa. In the first instance, it's obviously looking for employment and looking for alternative employment, looking for jobs, looking for switches, and looking for other routes as to how can you stay in the UK lawfully. So the way that the first route is obviously to look for a switch, and we know that those are not easy at the moment. It's not easy to get a switch. A lot of employers want staff, but they actually do not have the certificate of sponsorship. So there is a problem in that they may be able to offer you employment, but they don't have the certificate of sponsorship to be able to keep. So that is another addition to the problems that are there. So if you're able to get a sponsor who has got the undefined certificate of sponsorship and they can sponsor you, that's the best thing to do. But obviously, the people that we're speaking to are not doing the obvious because the obvious is perhaps not working. If you have other options in the sense of, I've been speaking to people who are perhaps have got a background that is not in the care sector. For example, if you're a teacher, if you're an early years teacher, if you have any other skills, if you are a social worker, if you are a nurse, if you're any other skills in addition to being a nurse. You are, to a carer, you are allowed to switch. You're allowed to get into any skilled worker category. So don't limit yourselves to stay in the codes of carers. If you are on a carer visa and you've got your 60 days running up, which is what we're talking about today, open up your options, look at every single sector, even go into work as a butcher, as a builder, if you're able to get that employment. The problem with some of the other sectors is the salaries have really gone up post the 4th of April, so it may not be possible to get that type of job because of the salary. But there's people who are in education, in restaurants, there are people who are working for KFC managers. If you've got a background in any other sector, please look for any form of employment. Don't limit yourselves, and don't limit yourselves to only certain areas within the UK or areas that you've settled. The goal is to try and get the employment anywhere and to get the skilled worker. If you're not able to get that, second thing I'm going to talk about before I answer questions is alternatives. If you are married and you've got a spouse who has got a British, who's a British citizen, a spouse who is on a skilled worker visa, a spouse who is on indefinite leave to remain, refugee status, European national, you can then switch from your visa into a spouse visa. So that's an option that's always, that is available and readily available. I've come across people who have a child with someone who has indefinite leave to remain, and they didn't know that they can switch onto the parent route as well. So you can switch into a different visa category, and that is an option as well. So keep the options open. There are some people who may qualify for ancestry, UK ancestry. So you may have to make your application back from your country of origin, but that is another option where you can take that. So utilize whatever option you have, utilize all of the whatever is available for you. So initially, skilled worker, different category, then family route, spouse, or parent, if you've got that ability to switch into that category. Or if you find love and you get married, then switch into that category again. But I always warn people not to get into dangerous relationships just for the sake of getting a visa. Don't enter into these contract marriages. Don't enter into these relationships where you're paying people to be able to stay. I think people have learned, I hope they listen, that you shouldn't buy things that are not for sale because you end up in trouble. So please don't enter into contract marriages and things like that. Don't be that desperate to do that because it will end in tears. But if you genuinely fall in love with someone and you want to get married, then you know that's another route for you to be able to settle to extend. If the 60 days is now coming to an end. So, one thing I want to say about these 60 days is that the 60-day letter is an actual letter that you get with an end date. It's a letter from the Home Office which explains that your visa has been cancelled or curtailed and you've got 60 days left. It's not your employer who tells you that you've got 60 days left after the revocation. So there's some people who are calculating the days wrong because they're thinking from the day we were told that the sponsor license has been revoked, they've started counting the 60 days. The Home Office will send you an email. They will send you a letter. So keep refreshing your emails, keep checking in your junk mail, keep checking in your inboxes for a letter from the Home Office. So the Home Office will write you a letter, and also your right to work on the Home Office website will change, reflecting the new date of when your leave to remain will expire. So the 60 days not from the employer, they're not the ones to calculate. The 60 days is a letter from the Home Office, which comes either as an email or in the post. It's very important for you to get that letter and keep it and be aware of it. Because if you don't check your emails, or if you don't notify the Home Office about your address or your email and your contact details, then you may not receive that letter. But it will be sent and you will still end up becoming an overstay if you're not aware. So please make sure that the Home Office knows your details and your address so that you can be able to get information from them and understand where you stand, rather than just encountering them when you're driving and they tell you that, your leave to remain expired months ago, we're detaining you and we're sending you back to your country of origin. So I'm denying requests to record, because we're making a recording which we will share with people. So those who are trying to record, we're just denying those requests. So please don't try and record. So if your 60 days from the Home Office are expiring and you have not found a switch, you have not found any other way of lawfully staying in the United Kingdom, I'm not going to talk about asylum, because people who have asylum claims, they can make, they can make asylum claims as well, but that's a topic that I'm not really covering today. But you can get advice around asylum from solicitors who specialize in legal aid and asylum. So if you do feel that you are at risk of persecution, then you need to get advice from somebody who can advise you about asylum. But if your 60 days is almost up and you have not found a switch, or you've got a promise of a job, but your employer doesn't have certificates of sponsorship and they cannot process your new visa, then you can. So for some situations where people have got promises of employment, or they've got children who are in school who are writing exams, or there is other reasons why you need to stay and you cannot actually go back, you can make an application to ask the Home Office for leave to remain, additional leave outside of the immigration rules. So we have seen many people making fee waiver applications. So what a fee waiver is not, it's not an immigration, it's not the actual application. The application to say, Home Office, can I have some discretionary leave, just some extra time so that I can look for a job, or I can stay and resolve my issues, my children can write exams. The application itself costs about, the application fee is 1,048, and then you'd have to pay the immigration health surcharge, because you're not applying as a carer anymore. So you would have to pay the health surcharge. So that would cost about 1,035 times 2.5 plus 1,048. So that's a lot of money. And so that's why people are making fee waiver applications. So the fee waiver application is for you to ask for the Home Office to cancel those fees and to waive those fees. So it's also a strategy for you to stay legal, because when you make that application, it triggers your Rule 3C leave, which means that you can stay lawfully in the UK whilst that application is being processed. But the fee waiver is generally for human rights applications, modern day slavery, some applications around people who've previously been granted modern day slavery, people who are applying under the parent route, long residence. And so there's a list of people who qualify. So it doesn't include skilled worker, and some people get quite confused about that. But you can apply and explain your circumstances and show why you cannot afford the application and what you intend to apply for. And then once you submit that, it then ensures that you stay here legal. However, during that time, your aim is to get an employer and to get a switch, because you will need to then change that application. Once you get a switch, you can then apply for a skilled worker visa and try and get back on track. So it's a way to buy time. It's a way to ensure that you do not become an overstay and do not get removed. But there's no guarantee that you will get the fee waiver. Please hear me thoroughly. Just hear what I'm saying. So when you apply for the fee waiver, it can come back with a refusal. They can say no. Then you'd have to pay and make the application. That application, they can also come back and say no. So as a person who knows what they are wanting to do, what they want is to get one of the routes that I spoke about at the beginning, so that they can guarantee. That is what is guaranteed. We hope that there will be challenges to what is happening in the UK now. We hope that the information of what people are going through will get to the authorities. We are trying to gather as much information as we can and send it to people who make decisions, so that they can see how the carers who came here, innocent, wanting to work, have lost their jobs because the licenses have been revoked, or the sponsor doesn't have hours, or they find themselves in a situation that they're not bargained for. But this is all because of the Home Office, that they just opened up the doors and they were not policing this sector at the beginning. So we now have a crisis where people are staying here without work, without employment, and then getting sent back to where they've come from, which is very unfair. So those are issues that are being discussed everywhere. It's an issue that is emerging. So we hope that the government will do something. But in the meantime, it's important to stay legal. It's important not to put yourself in a position where you can be detained and removed. I had a client who called me today who is in detention in Solihull, and she explained that many of the people who are there, she's a failed asylum seeker, but many of the people who were there were skilled workers, carers who were taken from work, where they were found working in a restaurant when they should have been working in a domiciliary care. So they were picked up and they're detained. Some of them detained spouse, go home and fetch the wife. So you don't want to find yourself in a position where you're in the wrong place, you're driving and you don't have leave to remain, you're arrested, you're taken to an immigration removal center, and you're. So that is something that is the reason why today we're doing this webinar, just to advise people what you need to do and how you need to do it. We can do applications for fee waivers, and you can contact us, but you can also do it yourself. We've put the links, we've put information on our website, because the demand is very high and we cannot respond to everyone, we cannot help everyone. So we can help those that we can help. But the reason why I'm doing this webinar is so that people can have access to the information. And so we can, if you do want to access the services that we have, you can. And we also work with people who are referred to us, people who may be homeless, people who may be victims of domestic violence, and we're able to help them. So we have a lot of referrals that come through, and we have many people that we support, but we try to support as many as we can. We are even training more people, recruiting more people, so that we can be able to help people at the point where they need the legal advice and the services, so that they do not become illegal. So I've talked for a long time, 24 minutes, on how to maintain your visas. I think I've covered the different routes, and I've covered how to buy time and how to do that. One thing I haven't covered is voluntary return. If you feel that you can no longer, it's too hot and it's too much, then you're allowed to return. Some people don't have money to return, and you can contact the Home Office for voluntary return, and they can assist you to return voluntarily and pay for your travel. But you would not be able to come back for a period of time. because you'd have gone at the cost of the government. So you would face a ban for 10 years. I know some people say they don't want to come here because they've experienced, they haven't had a pleasant experience. So I can understand that. So I'm going to answer some of the questions here. I may not get through all of them, but I will try my very best to answer as many as I can. So I've got the last one, which is, I've just scrolled down. So I'll answer the last one, then go up to the first one. So somebody said, I came here in October last year, but didn't work until now. And my sponsor doesn't have hours. So I decided to do volunteering, which I am doing now at an NHS hospital. Will that affect my visa? So what I would say to you, to someone who is in that position, and there may be many other people who are in a position where they've come to the UK and they've never worked because their employer does not have hours. So what your employer is illegal because they have recruited you and brought you here under the pretext that you will be working. So that is not lawful to do that, to bring someone and not give them any hours. And so it's important for you to speak to that employer and ask for work, and make sure that you write to say, I'm here to work. And you should be getting you should be getting paid. So what is the reason why you're not working? Not having hours is not good enough because you needed to have been brought here to fill a vacancy. So where you also have an employer who is in that situation, you just know that it's a matter of time before that license is revoked, because it's against the law. This is what has got us into this mess that we're in, because there's too many people who have brought people and don't have work for them. So that is something which has caused this crisis of people landing on the shores of the King's Land and they don't have work. So it's not right, and it's a matter of time, because it reflects at the Home Office that there's these people, they're not working. So you also need to be making, you need to be telling your employer that, listen, you're supposed to be employing me, I need to survive. How am I supposed to survive? Because they owe you money for the contract that you have. So from a contractual basis and employment law, you have a contract of employment, and that contract should be on. It's not good enough to just be staying on a sponsorship when you're not getting any work, because it's a matter of time before that license is revoked. So you can volunteer, but what you should actually be doing is dealing with your employment issue, but also looking for a switch so that you can find employment. So you can volunteer, but you also need to be looking for employment so that you're not caught unawares, because this is only going to end in one way. It's not going to end in another way. You can't argue with computers, the system, and what we have now. So it's eventually going to reach a point where the Home Office will catch up with that employer. And that employer as well is accruing, they owe you the money. So they are accruing liability towards you. And very serious. So I don't want to, it's a very serious issue. And so it's very important for you to also protect yourself by looking for employment even before you are now on a clock getting to the 60 hours. If anyone is employed by somebody who has got no hours for them and they're not paying them a penny, know that the Home Office is going to come knocking sooner or later. So it's important for you to be aware of that. That it's not lawful, it's not right, and it's something that you only earn in one way. So it's important for you to also find a switch. Yeah. So for somebody who, the first question that I had, somebody who had to wait for 28 days, they're applying for the visa and they see that the occupation code has changed. If it was issued before the change, then if it was issued before the change, then you can still use that certificate of sponsorship. So you can still use that and apply for your visa. If there's anyone in the chat, you can yeah, if you just check some of the questions as we go through them. So I was given 60 days to leave the country because the sponsor license was revoked. I applied for a fee waiver 3 days before the 60 days expired. After 5 days, I managed to get a switch and I applied for my visa. Today, I've received an email from the Home Office asking me to explain why I applied my visa after 60 days. So you'd need to explain to the Home Office that you made an application which was in time 3 days before your 60 days expired. So essentially what you're saying is you made your application for a switch 2 days after your visa expired, if that's right, after the 60 days expired. So explain to the Home Office what action you took and explain to them that you were waiting for the certificate of sponsorship, and also explain to them that you're also aware that when you make an in-time application that you made for the fee waiver, your leave to remain continues to run. But in addition to that, there is a 14-day grace period where you can show a good reason why you applied after your visa expired. So you also would need to explain then that you were also within that 14-day grace period, and the reason why you delayed in applying was because there was a delay in getting the certificate of sponsorship from your employer. So you would need to justify why and explain that to the Home Office in a letter. And I would also say to you, Kundai, that it would be good for you to perhaps get a representative to help you, because you have to you have to justify why you've done certain things and explain to the Home Office what their rules say and what the law says. So it's not automatic that you might meet a caseworker who doesn't understand, so they will just react. So it's important to point them to the law and point them to their own guidance, and that's where you get help in terms of legal advice when you reach a situation like that, because it's then not as straightforward just a skilled worker, because it's not a straightforward application. So I hope that has helped. And so Lillian, do you have the 60 days? I think I've covered that question that you've asked before when I was answering some of the questions. So I'm not quite sure. Okay, the question is from Fungai. It's about the new rules that we both that you both came on separate visas, working in the same company, and you decided to get married. You got married after the introduction of the new regulation, and you got a switch and you want your partner to be your dependent. Is it possible, since you got a new visa, yesterday, and I want my partner on the visa as dependent, and switches from care to dependent. So it depends if since 2022, have you been on the carer visa? So if you've been on the previous code, which is 6145 or 6146, and you've been in that visa category continuously, then you are able to sponsor your dependent and your spouse. So you would still be able they could switch and become your dependent because you've been on the same visa route consistently before the 11th of March and after. So the new visa that you're saying you got, is it in the same visa category, and is it the visa category that you were before? So it's important to check the codes and check what you mean by that. So it's important to just be clear about that. Whereas if you were previously a teacher and then you became a carer and got the new visa yesterday, you then would not be able to sponsor your dependent because the new rules would apply to you. So it applies, it depends on what visa did you have before, what code were you sponsored on before. That's the important thing. Before the 11th of March, what visa category were you on? So if you were, it doesn't matter that you got married after that, you can still bring your dependents. And that applies to everyone who was here on the old code 6145 and 6146, and they were carers or senior carers. They are still able to bring their dependents even after the 11th of March. So even if you get married to somebody now, you can still bring in your spouse or your children and make the application. But it's only if you were given the visa as a carer after the 11th of March, then you would not be able to do that. I think I've answered that question. I don't know if Kundai, that's the same question that I've answered before. I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. I can see I've got my other colleagues who are here. Yvonne, please, if you want to pitch in on any of the questions, please feel free. And I know I'd ask you to start your video, but if you do have anything that you want to add to any of the questions, please feel free. If there's anyone else, I know Mark sometimes is on. If there's any other lawyers who want to add anything, if you're on here, please feel free to add, because there's loads of questions. Thank you. Somebody. Yeah, the next question I got in the chat, somebody was fired at work after being plotted. It's now 2 months and you haven't received any email from the Home Office. Your visa status check is still valid every day. Praise God, thank goodness for that. And you check all the time. Your worry is if my DBS had not updated it online when the company did for you, do you think the Home Office will say because you were fired 2 months ago, so you overstayed and haven't received email? I think I've answered that question as well before, that the date you will receive correspondence, but if, say, your visa is expiring anyway, the Home Office is not going to give you 60 days. So I've had people who have the visa is expiring on the 10th of May. So the Home Office can leave it to expire, because once it's expired, it's expired. So I've had people asking for advice, say, 60 days. So I'm still waiting. But your actual visa had expired before. So they only give you the 60 days if you actually have more than 60 days. But if your visa is going to expire anyway, they're not going to wait. They're not going to say, we're still giving you a 60-day letter. I hope that makes sense. So you may not get a 60-day letter, but you need to record and know the date that your visa is going to expire, because that's an important date. So you need to keep a record of that for yourself, because you may never. Yes. But you will that if your visa expires. So I would not apply. Someone is asking me, apply for a fee waiver. Our visa is going to expire in 3 months. No, don't apply for a fee waiver. Look for a switch. So a fee waiver is not even a valid application. It's actually just a way to just try and keep you without becoming an overstayer. So if you've got 3 months, you've got 3 months to look for a switch, 3 months to look for another visa. So don't relax and think. That's what I've seen, people applying 6 months and saying, I want to apply for this. And I'm saying, no, look for a switch. So if you've got 3 months and your company is not renewing and they've already told you that we're not going to extend your, we're not going to give you a new certificate of sponsorship. If you had a visa for 1 year and they've said, we're not extending. When they tell you that, please take it seriously and start counting your days then and looking for alternative employment and looking for a switch. It's so important for you to be doing that throughout the time so that you're able to just stay in the same category. Because the reason why it's so dangerous to dip out of your visa category and then try and apply to buy time using any other category is that you then may disrupt the flow of your 5 years on that visa category. So it can then come to affect you at the end. So it's only desperate times that require desperate measures, when you've got like a day left. But if you've got 3 months, you've got time. Look for a switch. That's the priority, to look for a switch everywhere, from Northern Ireland down to wherever you need to go in this country, to Wales, to Scotland. The important thing is to be able to stay in that visa category. Those 5 years you need to keep on the same route. So if you've got 3 months, you've got time. Leave that fee waiver alone and apply for a switch. So that is the most important thing. I think I've answered Mildred's question, because same as Kundai, that you need to make representations about why that applies for you. Yeah, so if you're a nurse in Zim and getting verification, so nurses are stuck in care because of this, that's a comment to where I was saying if you're a nurse or a teacher, you can also go into that category. So yeah, I don't know if there's anyone who knows how to help nurses to get their verification, because I think that's a major problem for a lot of people.
If I can come here, Rumbi, I just heard that there is a procedure through the nurses organization. Let me just look it up. There is a procedure. You can do it through the NMC, I believe. That you do it formally, organization to organization, rather than you trying to deal with a Zimbabwean or whatever country is holding you up.
Right. So for nurses, I think there's a lot of people who are working as carers who can't get those verifications. So thank you for that. And I hope you can share the link in the chat so that people can have access to that. That's great. So yeah, Martin has asked, and somebody else has asked, that if I'm on another visa category and I try and switch into the care sector, will my dependents be able to switch with me too? So if you're switching for the first time into the care sector post the 11th of March, your dependents will not be able to switch with you as well, because you're going to be you're starting afresh. You're not one of the pre-existing people who were in that visa category as a care. If you're going to go under the care, the code 6135 or 61. So your dependents will not be able to switch. That is as it stands, and that's my understanding of that. So Talent, you've got a question. I'll ask you, perhaps you've got your hand up. You can ask the question if you unmute. Or Talent, I don't know if your hand is up by mistake, and Siboniso as well, either one of you.
Hi, Rumbi.
Hello.
Hi, I'd like to ask, like, when I'm applying for the fee waiver, there are 7 options that I'm seeing. There's no any part concerning skilled worker visa. So then, how do I go about it?
When is your visa expiring? Your
20
Pardon?
28 May.
Yeah, so there's no need for you to be applying for that now. You've still got so much time to look for a switch.
Looking, I haven't found anything yet.
28 days.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
So I was saying that that's a last resort. So you can see even on the category, it's not even there for you.
Yeah, yes, it's not there.
It's a desperate measure when your visa is about to expire, like you've got nothing. So you've still got a month and a half, you can get a switch.
So, on the fee waiver, which option do I have to choose? Just in case.
About that. For a switch, I will try to switch to give you. Does anybody have a switch on the group who can give talent a switch? There's nowhere for you to take. There's nowhere you actually fit in. But I think you would actually explain yourself, and then I'm not sure what the categories are, but I'll get someone to send a screenshot and show. But I wouldn't advise you to do that. That's why I'm saying I'm not going to tell you, because it's not in your best interest. You've still got time to get a switch. So I would say it's not even an option for you with 28th of May. You've still got time. You can get something so that you can just stay in your visa category. So that's what I've been saying. I want you to hear me. That's why I'm not giving you the answer to that, because it's important for you to hear that it's something that you should maybe only do on the 27th of May rather than doing it now when you've still got time to stay in your visa category. And I believe that, I hope more COSs will be coming out now after the rule changes. So, stay positive and just hope that you get something quickly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Hello, Rumbi.
Hello, I'm just going to go back to some of the people who've asked in the chat, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
Their questions, yeah. Somebody, Mildred had put, because there's loads of questions in the chat. I don't think we'll be able to finish them, but we can save some and try and answer as many as we can. The company's been closed and been told to look for a switch. So any idea where we can get it or any links? So Mildred and anyone else who's asking about where to look for a switch, apply online, like look for job vacancies using websites like Indeed, looking at on NHS, big companies, and join groups where people share links. There's organizations like Home Instead, so many companies, LSTM, there are many companies who are recruiting, but you've got to search for those jobs. I know that the ADAS, the Adult Commissioning Services, they're going to try to come up with an app where they've got vacancies regionally and people who've got sponsorship licenses, so people can register on that. But otherwise, the usual routes to look for work. So use community boards, look online, look at nursing homes, look at your local nursing homes, look at NHS Trust, look at all over. So you'll find when you search for care jobs with sponsorship, you will then be able to see a lot of things even on Google and Indeed, and that search. I know of somebody who, she did 300 applications, she finally got one in the NHS. So you've got to make many applications. There's no where you're just going to get them. And what I'm going to also say is, please do not be tempted to buy them. Because you will find people who already want to take advantage of you, and they'll be wanting to sell you fake things again. So there's people who have been tricked into buying. So if you don't go through a proper application process, you're probably buying something where you're again going to have no hours, or they're going to get the license is again going to get revoked. So don't do it. Just, spend your time really applying and looking for those jobs all over, and research and spend and put in the time. And I think that's something that I remember as someone wrote on one of our WhatsApp groups where people share switches to say they're not being helped. But no one is going to come and give you a job on just to give it to you. You might be blessed, and you might just have an encounter where you're able to get one. But most people have got to apply and apply and apply and apply, and eventually you'll get something. Go for interviews, fail interviews. We've referred people for interviews where we've got employers and they've said no. We don't want, you don't meet what we are looking for in our company. So, but you keep trying. So it's applying and trying and keeping on trying until you get something. And it can feel like, it's really overwhelming, but keep trying. Even nursing homes, all over the UK, look for them, or even local to you. So there's no way where you're just going to get a switch. Be careful of people who are ready to take advantage of you, and don't be tricked into it. I'm going to ask who was next. I think there was someone who had their hand up. It was Siboni, so I think
Talent.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, Ruby. Mine is related to if you're made redundant and you are coming up to the 5-year mark for ILR, if you don't sort of successfully find work, does the fact that you've been here 5 years count for anything? If you were on a route to settlement, that is.
if you don't reach the 5 years.
No, I'm saying you're about to reach it, but you've been made redundant. So technically, this employer can't say they need you for the foreseeable future. So if you don't find, say, another job that will sponsor you, over that, 5-year point or beyond the 5-year point, is there an option that you could still get the ILR even though you don't have sponsored work, or you definitely have to be, doing sponsored work?
So you don't have to do sponsored work once you've got the indefinite leave to remain.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah, but I'm saying if at the point, where you're now eligible, you.
But also if you completed 5 full years. Yvonne, are you still here? So if you've completed the 5 full years and your sponsors are no longer.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, what would happen there?
So the first thing is that at the time you are applying for the 5 years settlement, you need to be meeting the visa requirements.
Right.
So you need to be employed, right? Very few people are actually coming to the 5 years on this visa. So we don't really have that.
Yeah, sorry. Mine is not in the health and care, but it's another skilled worker category.
Yeah.
In
any visa category that is tiered, right? That is a tier worker
former
visa.
tier 2,
you will still need to show that you are required. I think throughout the tier visas, there is a blanket requirement that you need to show that you are required by your employer, or you are working within the tier that you've been granted a visa for. So if this is where we are going to have difficulties, where people have gaps in their visas, where they have fallen out and are unable to show economic activity in their tier, right? for certain periods. And this is something that we're going to have to grapple with as people come up to the 5 years.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Rumbi, sorry, Rumbi. I'm at a tight situation at the moment, but I would just ask you a question quickly. So apparently, the situation that we are in is that my husband was the main applicant, but hence he was involved in a car accident, so he is no longer able to do care work anymore like you normally did before. So I would like to switch to be as main applicant. So how do we go about it? And prior to the new visa that new COS that came in, if I get a COS, are they affected, or they will still remain in the UK?
So technically, according to the rules, because you'll be going onto the carer route now. So you will not be able to.
Your line is gone, Rumbi. We
Are you able to fix your microphone?
Hello?
We
can hear you, but then the sound is low.
Oh, the sound is low. Is that better?
Just try to reposition microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Reposition it again.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Enter your meeting ID followed by hash. Enter your participant ID followed by hash. You are in the meeting now. There are more than 360 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, can you hear me better now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear
better.
you.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, good. So I was saying, if you are switching to if you were a dependent and you are now the main applicant, according to the rules post 11th of March, so if you're doing that now, then you, according to the rules and my interpretation of them, you wouldn't be able to be a dependent. Your husband would not be able to be a dependent because the rules don't allow you to bring or sponsor your dependents. However, you do need to seek advice, and there may be ways, but technically you wouldn't be able to. If he's had an accident and he can't work as a carer anymore, that may be viewed as a compassionate circumstance. It may be something that is exceptional, but if you look at the strict interpretation of the rules, you wouldn't be able to sponsor him if you swap around. So that is one of it's a problematic issue which I foresee where people are switching, where couples are swapping around.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Rumbi, thank you.
So we've this web, there's so many people, and I know there's such a demand for information, and we're supposed to finish in 1 minute, and we've got like 99 questions in the chat. So I'm probably just going to answer a couple more and signpost people's hands, because there's people who've been writing in the chat, and it's fair for them. So I'll just take a couple more, and then this is part one. Next week we'll have another one. So we may keep these questions, and some of the questions we'll answer them on the website, and maybe just put blog posts and links for people to have some of the information. So I think some of them I've answered as I go through because some of them duplicate. Adult dependence, I think someone has asked, quite a few have asked, can I bring my 23-year-old, 20-year-old, where the rules are quite clear on children over 18, unless there are circumstances which are where the ones I've succeeded in is where we have some children who are disabled, who cannot look after themselves, or children who have got like cerebral palsy. Those are the type of cases where I've seen children who are over 18 being granted visas to come as dependents, but children who are at university working, who are just dependent, and say, actually don't do those applications because are refused because they don't meet the requirements of the immigration rules. So I've actually stopped taking over 18 applications unless there's clear evidence that, for example, a child is, is handicapped, they cannot look after themselves, they're totally dependent on their parents. So that's a quick answer to that one. So it depends on your circumstances because you haven't given information about the 23-year-old. So you would need to just get advice specific to your situation so that we can assess whether there's anything different about your child and what their needs are and what the reasons are. But generally, an 18-year-old who is does not have anything out of the ordinary or they need that level of support, you wouldn't be able to apply for them if you're on a carer visa. So yeah, Vivo has sent, you came on a student visa, you couldn't attend class because of an unpleasant issue. Now the Home Office has sent you a letter and you have to leave before 27th of this month. And I already applied for a nursing course, but I need something to get response from the nursing school. So you're most likely better off going back to your country of origin, leave before the 27th, and then pursue your application for the student visa as a nurse from your country of origin. So there's nothing wrong with doing that because you've already got a plan, you know what you're going to do. So you can perhaps leave and then be able to come back and seek advice around that, specific to you, depending on why you didn't attend school and things like that. But you can just go back and come back as a student that you already had. So your question was answered. Yeah, so the Samsung, if your COS is applying on 1 June, please look for you to stay legal because you're on the 5-year route as a skilled worker. Please stay legal. Find an extension and continue on that route as a skilled worker and you as the dependent. So one of the things is something that Yvonne mentioned, that if people reach the 5 years, we're going to have some problems because people are not working, they don't have hours. Some people are trying to do a fee waiver to buy time, and all of those issues are going to come back when you reach the indefinite leave to remain stage. So at the moment, it's a fight to stay and to stay here legally. And it may not, it may not be that you will get to that 5 years. It's guaranteed, right? And because if you and that's the danger of this that we've got no hours. So there's no tax for the employer. Your P60 will show that you haven't earned. So it's not a situation to stay in comfortably, but to definitely be able to look for a job where you are working, and obviously for employers not to be doing that. But we are in a position where some people do not have any work, and it will not just affect you now, but it can affect you even after the 5 years. And there's no guarantee that you get to that 5 years. We need to take one day at a time because of the situation that we're finding ourselves in. So if you want to find how you can communicate with the Home Office to find out if they've got your correct email or address. You can go onto gov.uk and update your details on the Home Office website and notify them of your email address. So yeah, I'm going to ask the Tulia team. I'm going to answer one last question, and then I'm going to ask someone to just to download the questions so that we can see how we can collate them and put them together. And then when we do part 2, we can go through those, and maybe we can have a panel of advisors so that we can go through them, because there's just so many. So this person, Bree, you said you've got a new sponsor. They're charging you £384 per year for the COS, and they want you to pay that. And then after you get your cost, you must still raise money for the new visa. And you can't raise the money, and you paid for 1 year only. Is there another way to carry with my previous 5-year visa that I initially had? Employer license was revoked in January, and I haven't received a letter from the Home Office. So I would be wary about the employer who's making you pay the immigration skills charge, because that they're not supposed to be making you pay that amount, that 384, which is the immigration skills charge. That's something that they should be paying. But if you were to get where you're not paying, then if it's 1 year, you know, you may not stay with the 5 years. Just take 1 year so that you continue on having sponsorship. But I wouldn't encourage people to be buying COSs. As I said, this is what has got us into the situation that we find. But you can't guarantee that you're going to get the 5 years, but you need to make sure that you have something, because if the Home Office curtails your visa when you get the 60 days, you've lost those 4 years, you know. So if you do get an offer even for a year, I would take that, as long as it is in a situation where you've got a reputable employer. So yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. Questions, we're going to answer them on our blog. If you can follow our page, Tulia,
Immigration, and also
a bot on our website. So I want to just demonstrate, because I think people don't use the bot. It doesn't give you information that is, what can I say? It's not legal advice, but some of the questions that you need to find answers to, like how do I update my details with the Home Office? You can find that on our website and speak to the bot, to the chat bot, and it can give you that information, simple information that you need. So if you could allow me to just share my screen for a minute. Yeah. So I'm just going to go onto our website. So if you go onto the website and go onto this little icon which says let's chat, and then it will answer your simple questions. You don't even have to answer those details. How to update. I hope it will work. My details with the Home Office. So that's a question that's appeared quite a lot today. So you see all the information is there. If the answer has come to the question that you have. So it's simple for you to then find the article, it will take you there, and then it shows you what information you need and how to do that. And so it's really simple to use. So sometimes when you need information, quick answers, not detailed legal advice, but simple information, use the chat facility, because we feed it with information and it's artificial intelligence. So we feed it with commonly asked questions, and then it can answer those. So play around with it. It's like Alexa in the kitchen, or if you've got Siri on your phone, but it's one which we've spent so much time feeding so that you can get free information. So instead of saying, hey, Rumbi is not answering me on Messenger, just go on to this little machine and ask some of the common questions, because it's free, it's there 24/7, and you can be able to get as much information that you need. Not everything, because it can't answer, it can't fill forms, it can't give legal advice, but it can signpost you to certain places where you can get information. Even on gov.uk, it can show you. So hopefully you'll be able to just access that. Thank you so much, and have a good night, and we'll see you next week. So I'm not sure what other questions were there, but yeah, we'll go through them and see what happens, and try and answer as many as that we can on our website, or with some audios on our TikTok. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on, we try honestly to send information. So follow us on TikTok. Check our website. We've got our little bot. And follow us on Facebook, on YouTube. There's so much information on there. And you can also join community groups where you get peer information as well. So, or you can get legal advice where you pay for detailed immigration advice that has to do with you. Unfair dismissals, we're going to have someone who's going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll share this recording on our website as well. Be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rumi, and thank you all guys for joining us tonight. At Tulia, we offer legal advice and holistic support for migrants. So if you need any like one-to-one service, we offer that. We've got free and paid consultations available for you. So the free ones, usually they are booked maybe a few months in advance. But if you need urgent urgent advice, it's available as well. But it's a small fee, which is £150 for an hour. We also help with if you've got a visa refusal, if you also need help with the settlement to indefinite leave to remain, British citizenship, and all those things, we can help you with that. And this is what you can do. You can book for a consultation on our website, which is www.tulia.org.uk. You can also follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We'll post this recording on YouTube channel, so keep an eye on that. And then you can also volunteer to work with us. There are various ways you can volunteer at Tulia, so just visit that website and register to volunteer with us. And then lastly, you can also join one of our WhatsApp groups where you get up-to-date information and any updates on when we're going to host our next.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Those who are just joining, we've finished for today, but we'll be back next week with part 2, and we'll start with some of those questions. We'll put them into groups so that we can answer them. Thank you so much, everyone.